Hi, I'm Ben from Blackmagic Design. Today I'll be showing you the exposure tools you can use within your Blackmagic Design camera. To demonstrate this, I'll be using the Blackmagic Design Pocket Cinema 6K Pro. One of the exposure tools available in the camera is an RGB histogram. This is a chart located in the bottom left of our heads-up display. If you can't see this, you may have your display set to show your current codec and resolution settings. You can change this by going to the menu in the top right-hand corner, going on to Monitor, and on Display, setting this to meters. This should now be displayed in the bottom left-hand corner of your LCD. The RGB histogram shows a tonal distribution of the image separated into individual red, green, and blue channels. The left edge of the histogram displays your shadows, or your blacks, and the right displays your highlights, or your whites. If I adjust the lens aperture accordingly, you'll see that the histogram moves to left and right depending on the exposure levels of your camera. You can use this to check clipping in your image shadows and highlights. When clipping occurs in the red, green, or blue channel, the respective indicator on the right side of the histogram lights up. As you can see, when I open up the aperture of the lens, the red channel is the first to clip in this scene, as shown by this red indicator. A tool in the camera that can be used to highlight the areas of your image that are clipping is called Zebra. Zebra displays diagonal lines over areas of your image that exceed a set exposure level. For example, setting Zebra to 100% shows which areas are completely overexposed. This is useful for achieving optimum exposure in fixed lighting conditions. I'm going to turn this on in the LCD monitor options by selecting this in the top left-hand corner, selecting Zebra, and turning this on. I can then use the slider to change the intensity of Zebra. I can also do this with the arrows in the bottom right-hand corner. For a detailed visual representation of the exposure across your image, you can use false color. I'll turn this on by going into the LCD monitor options, selecting false color, and turn this on. False color overlays different colors on the LCD that represent the exposure levels of the different elements of the image. This ranged from black detail loss, shown as purple, up to white clipping, represented as red. This is a really useful tool to see how the exposure of the camera is affecting your whole image and assist in making the right adjustments to things like lighting in your scene. It is also very useful for measuring exposure of skin tones. For example, pink represents optimum exposure for lighter skin tones, while green is a good match for darker skin tones. By monitoring this with false color when recording people, you can maintain constant exposure for their skin tones. As you may not want false color on the LCD all the time, you can assign this to a function button to quickly toggle this on and off when needed. I'm going to assign both Zebra and false color to two of the camera's function buttons, so I can easily toggle them on and off without the need to go into the menu or the LCD monitor settings. To do this, I'll go into the settings menu, selecting setup, and going into the function button page. As you can see, F1 is set to frame guides, but what we'll do is we'll set this to Zebra by going through the F1 parameters. Going into F2, we can also see this is set to display LUT, but what we'll do is we'll switch this to false color. Leaving the menu, this should now be set. So if I toggle function button 1, you can see that Zebra appears, and same with false color. As there's toggle, you can set this to on or off. You can also assign presets to these buttons by changing the behavior from toggle to preset. I'll do this by going back into the menu. You can see we have the option for preset. This allows you to recall a series of settings at the push of a button, such as FPS, iris, white balance, ISO, and shutter. Going into these settings allows me to change the respective values independently. For example, if I press white balance, I can change its value and adjust its tint. If you would like to find out more regarding Blackmagic Design products or features, please visit blackmagicdesign.com. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.